FireRed Kaizo IronMon, widely considered to be one of the most difficult challenges in Pokemon. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen other popular streamers take on this challenge, and some of them have even made it all the way to the finish line. I decided to take on this challenge about a year ago, and after taking a break, I decided it was finally time to get back to the grind. So make sure to sit back, grab a snack, and enjoy the wild ride that is FireRed Kaizo IronMon. Before we dive into the video though, we should probably take some time to explain why this challenge is so difficult in the first place. We'll be playing an old classic game in Pokemon FireRed, but with many different twists. The first twist is that the game is entirely random. This means that all level up movesets are random, abilities are randomized, encounters and evolutions are also randomized, and the big one being the base stats. Each Pokemon's base stat total stays the same, but the base stats themselves can be different every time. This means that it's possible to get a base 10 HP Lugia or a base 200 speed Rhyhorn, and the list goes on from there. For the challenge, I'm only allowed one Pokemon as well. Just one for the entirety of the game. The only exception is that I can have an HM friend, but it can't do battle. Legendary Pokemon, as well as Pokemon above 600 BST, are also banned for this challenge. This means that I can't use Pokemon like Mewtwo or basically any of the pseudo-legendaries, plus Slacking, which would be an absolute monster if we could actually run it. During the game, I can also only use items that I find on the ground. This means I can't buy any items except Pokeballs and repels at markets. I also can't use any of the TMs I find to change my moveset unless I've been gifted them from a gym leader. There is also no move tutors allowed to change things either. When it comes to healing items, I can only ever use them during battle. This means that I can't use potions or status heals in the overworld, and all healing moves such as Recover, Rest, Giga Drain, and more are banned as well. Furthermore, the only held items I'm allowed to use are berries and herbs, so no using choice bands or shell bells or leftovers unfortunately. On top of that, there's also no fighting wild Pokemon, which means that all of my experience during the run has to come from trainer and boss fights. This means that we're basically going to fight every trainer that the game has to offer if possible. Speaking of those trainers, the Pokemon in general, all Pokemon have a 50% level buff for the game, and gym and boss trainers will also have an additional 3 Pokemon. This means that Brock, the first gym leader in the game, will have 5 Pokemon against only one of ours. Speaking of gyms, you have to clear them in one attempt and you can't leave until you beat the gym leader. You must also beat every trainer in the gym as well. And finally, piggybacking off of this previous rule, all dungeons in the game can also only be entered a single time. This includes caves, forests, certain buildings like Silphco, and more, meaning that once I leave a dungeon, I cannot return to it under any circumstances. So there are the rules. Seems like a lot of fun and not grueling or painful at all, right? There are a few extra rules that I didn't cover here as well, but I'll be sure to touch on them throughout the course of the video. But without further ado, the stage is now set for the run of a lifetime. This is FireRed Kaizo IronMon, attempt 2531. As I begin my 2531st attempt, I start off in Oak's lab once again as I choose my starter. It's also a common rule for you to have to choose the first starter you look at the start of the run, or follow what the tracker tells you. I luckily start off with a Lemonade, which is amazing to have as an early game heal, and we start off with a Charmeleon. We then set off for one of the hardest fights in the game right away. Over 75% of runs die in the very first fight due to the fact that our rival has a Pokemon that's already level 8. Thankfully, we don't miss moves in the lab, so after eating a hit, we fire back with a Blizzard to get the run started. Now, you can also see on my tracker that Charmeleon's base stats have been randomized. Being a base 405 Pokemon and having no speed at all, there's no chance this Pokemon's going to work. Ideally, we want a Pokemon with 500 BST at least, with amazing speed and amazing attack or special attack, which is surprisingly hard criteria to fulfill. Luckily for us, we can pivot to a different Pokemon on the first couple of routes. I eventually decided to take a level 8 Gardevoir, which had pretty great stats minus a pretty suboptimal special defense. There is one saving grace to this Mon though that I didn't realize until our first fight, and that is that we have Serene Grace. So our Needle Arms carry us through Beedrill and Mr. Mime, and we receive one of the best omens we could possibly ask for. Crazy. Okay, Joe, sounds good. What? Holy shit. Oh, I am Serene Grace, that's why. Learning Flamethrower is huge, as it's one of the strongest and most accurate fire type moves that we can ask for that doesn't make contact with our opponent. This means that we don't have to worry about contact abilities like Rough Skin, Poison Point, Static, Flame Body, and more. And just when you thought things couldn't start off any better, yet another Viridian Forest fight nabbed me this. What do we got? Guys, what's happening? I don't think you guys understand how crazy this start is. I've reset my game over 2,500 times at this point, and I've never had Thunderbolt or Flamethrower more than 5 or 6 times on a good Pokemon, and I have never had them on the same one. So we start off our first huge challenge with the Pewter City Gym. After taking out the first trainer with ease, we go up against Brock, who has a whopping 5 Pokemon. It's commonly accepted that you don't really have a real run until you get past the first gym, since Brock is so difficult to beat. But we manage to get some good luck and we get through the fight, learning Bone Club along the way to help with our coverage. We pick up the Thunder Punch TM from Brock, but since we already have Thunderbolt, we'll just move on for now. At this point, I realize that most of my stats are pretty good, including a monster HP stat. However, as I mentioned before, our special defense is literally awful, and I mean awful. So I'm excited, but I'm not optimistic. Regardless, our run has finally begun. Now it's time for us to knock out some trainers east of Pewter City and make our way to our first dungeon, being Mount Moon. We also find our first awesome heal at this point in a max potion. We'll want to hopefully save that for the Elite Four, as high tier heals are really hard to come by. We also decide to nickname our Gardevoir, and chat decides on Judy as the name for our beloved starter. Now it's time to enter Mount Moon, which has a large variety of items for us, as well as trainers for us to grind as we make our way through. I pop some repels and make my way through the end of the dungeon, fighting all of the required trainers first, just in case I have to leave early and we can't beat the rest of them. This is a pretty common strategy in IronMon, as it minimizes the risk, and boy is there a lot of it. Luckily for us, we're able to battle pretty much all of the trainers here, and we leave the tunnel at level 31, which is pretty solid. We progress through to Cerulean City, and now it's time for another scary part of the run, and that is the rival fight on Nugget Bridge. However, Gary has a less than threatening team for us to deal with, and we sweep through all 4 mods with Flamethrower. Along the way to Bill's, we skip learning the move Swagger, as it doesn't really help us out much, and we make it through to the end of the route, helping our good friend change back into a human and getting the all-important ticket to board the SSN. With that, we head south to Vermilion City. You're probably asking why we don't fight the second gym at this point, and the answer is pretty simple. We can do the route south of Cerulean and the route east of Vermilion, as well as the SSN, before we even need to fight Misty. This gives us plenty of insurance levels that make the fight much less threatening, and if we can go in overpowered, we're gonna do it. On our way down to Vermilion, we also get to walk through one of the tunnels, which has a ton of items for us. However, this tunnel doesn't yield any great results, but that's okay for now. We then head to the house of the Pokemon fan club guy, and he hands us a bike voucher, which we'll need to get a bike that helps us through Cycling Road later. After that, we take out all the trainers east of town, and now it's time to go board the SSN. After spanking our rival one more time, we pick up the cut HM from the captain after making some questionable choices. But at this point, it's time for us to start thinking about grabbing an HM friend that can also help us out on the run, because we need a Pokemon to use Cut, Surf, Strength, and Fly. We finish up a bunch of trainers on the ship, but our time on board gets cut short when this happens. I do have... Ooh, okay, well now we're definitely leaving. I won't roll the dice on these last few. I don't want to risk any hacks on our paralysis turns, so I decide to forfeit the last 2 trainers on board, and we exit never to return. We head on over to the grass at this point and pick out our HM friend Salamence though, so that makes up for our unlucky moment. This concludes our big grind session, and now it's time to get back to the fun stuff. As we enter Misty's gym, we encounter right away the bane of all IronMon runs, and that is Shedinja. Shedinja is the only Pokemon in the game that doesn't have a randomized ability, so it still maintains its Wonder Guard. This means that the Pokemon can only be hit by a super effective move. Due to the nature of IronMon, sometimes your runner won't have a move to hit Shedinja with, which ends in one of 2 things happening. Either you try to PP stall it or wait for it to mess up and kill itself like it did in one of my previous runs here. If I could get to my level... Never punished. Let's go. Never punished. Or you just lose the run entirely. Thankfully for us, Flamethrower is just the move we need, and we get through the fight without a problem. Misty then ends up being a total pushover, and we snag our second badge alongside the Water Pulse TM, which is awesome. Except we can't learn it. And even if I could, I'd probably pass on it right now, since the only type that we really need coverage for is dragon types, which water is pretty ineffective against. After grabbing our bike and clearing out the route east of Cerulean City, now that we can use Cut on the tree blocking our path, we run it straight back to Vermilion, and after picking around in trash cans for a bit longer than I'd like to admit, we take on Lieutenant Surge. We get through the fight without incident once again, and we're rewarded with a Feather Dance TM. Awesome. The one good part about finishing the gym here though is that we receive what is called a badge boost. Badge boosts are exclusive to the Gen 1 games and are fun rewards that you get for beating the gyms. These badge boosts increase one of our base stats slightly for the rest of the game, and any ounce of improvement goes a really long way. We pick up an attack boost from Brock, and beating Surge here brings us a speed boost, which is even better. As we progress through the game, we'll pick up a defense boost after beating Koga, and a special attack and defense boost from Blaine, which will be probably the most important one. But now it's time for probably my least favorite part of the run, and that is Rock Tunnel. Remember that we can't re-enter a dungeon once we leave, and Rock Tunnel has a total of 8 required fights, which makes it a really scary section to deal with. I enter the cave, and after getting through our first Pokemon, we replace Bone Club for Bone Meringue since it has a 5% better accuracy, and I hate missing moves, so this is a pretty good thing. But we then pick up a much needed Hyper Potion, and we breeze through the other 7 trainers, making our way to Lavender Town. For the last part of this chapter, we get to do another rival fight in the Pokemon Tower. Pokemon Tower is a unique dungeon in this game, as you're allowed to enter it twice instead of just once, since you'll need the Self Scope to get through the end of the dungeon. It's required that we fight our rival here, but I decide to take out as many trainers as possible so when I come back, it won't be as difficult. As we begin our third rival fight of the run, we finally run into our first issue, and that is Entei, which as you can see is ungodly tanky on the special side. I decide to Thunderbolt it 2 more times, but maybe it would have been worth it to click Bone Meringue there to see if its physical defense was just as good as its special. We make our way through the tower, taking out a lot of the Hex Maniacs along the way before we are paralyzed once again. So I decide to pack it up and leave for now. Now we get to bang out a bunch of extra trainers west of town, pick up some more items, and make our way to Celadon City. Along the way, we get to run through our second cave system with a ton of items, and we find one of the holy grails of IronMon, the rare candy. We'll be saving this for later though, and I'll explain why it's so great when the time comes. We get to town, grab the tea to feed the guards to open up Saffron City, and pick up the HM Fly from the birdhouse north of Cycling Road, which brings us to another big dungeon, which we'll talk about in the next chapter, the Game Corner. The Game Corner is the first of 2 big Team Rocket dungeons that we complete in this game, and it's usually not too bad of a time. Our level difference is pretty big by now, and it's just a matter of taking out some grunts, picking up more items, and eventually defeating Giovanni. Not much happens during this part of the run, to be honest, so I'm going to skip over a lot of it. The one thing though that I want to explain here is the big difference between the Game Corner and Silphco. Remember earlier when I talked about doing the required trainers in a dungeon before doing the extras? Well, we can do that in the Game Corner. This means that Giovanni is one of the first fights that we can do, and then we can go back and take on the grunts afterward, minimizing our risk as much as possible. However, once we get to Silphco and Saffron City, once we beat Giovanni, all of the Team Rocket grunts leave the building. Since there are over 30 trainers in that building before the boss fight, we basically need to risk everything on trying to beat as many of them as possible to maximize our experience, which puts a lot of risk on the Giovanni fight. There's a strong chance that we'll have to burn heals and PP items during this dungeon as well, but we'll talk about that later. We finish up the Game Corner and head on over to the Pokemon Tower. Here, we put the ghost of Cubone's mother to rest, I guess, and we save Mr. Fuji. He hands us the Pokemon Flute, and now comes the worst part of the game. We basically at this point need to clear out every trainer between Lavender Town and Fuchsia City on the east side, while cleaning out Cycling Road between Fuchsia City and Celadon City on the west side. This section includes 64 trainer fights. So not only is it long and tedious, it can a lot can happen in 64 battles, even with such a big level difference. During the middle of this grind session, we also can take a trip to the Safari Zone to get the Surf HM, as well as get the Gold Teeth to get to the Warden to obtain the Strength TM. Again, not a lot happens in this section, but I'd like to share one moment that happened just east of Fuchsia City. One of the bad parts of it, it's so grindy. There's like 32 trainers over here. Like, there is no reason for there to be as many Pokemon, like, trainers over here to fight as there are. Okay. Hitmonlee has Mirror Coat and good special defense. And the only reason I live that is because he has good special defense and I have a ton of HP. As you can see, we get our first big scare here with this Hitmonlee. There's a quartet of moves that are infamous in ending IronMon runs. Counter and Mirror Coat are two of them alongside Destiny Bond and the dreaded Perish Song. Tanky Mons on the physical or special side respectively can eat a hit from you and just end your game like that before you have a chance to even process what's going on. Luckily for us, Hitmonlee doesn't quite have enough damage to do back to us here, but we definitely remember this information for later. We managed to get through the rest of the grind without any other scares, however, which sets us up truly for the mid-game. And now it's time for a little palate cleanser, everyone. Erica's gym is tough since it has 8 trainers to get through, but at this point we're so high level that the fights are made totally trivial. We speed through all the trainers here and take on Erica, who goes down without too much hassle, netting us the stockpiled TM, which is unfortunately not useful to us. The best part of this fight is that we can immediately go back to Fuchsia and take on Koga. However, this gym is much more difficult and more Pokemon are closer to us in level than we'd like, which makes this the toughest part of the game so far. While fighting the trainers, we get through them with relative ease, but manage to run into a few hiccups along the way. Due to our moveset, there are a couple abilities that can give us a really tough time. We learn during these fights that Golduck is carrying the Flame Body ability, which means it's not safe for us to hit it with Needle Arm in the future. And we also learn that Aerodactyl is Volt Absorb, which makes Thunderbolt useless against it. It's okay for this to be happening now, but once we get to the late game, we really can't afford to make mistakes. So now it's time to take on Koga, which is normally a very difficult time, but this time I'll let the fight speak for itself. It goes to show that having high base power moves makes the game so much easier. So when I was freaking out about learning Flamethrower and Thunderbolt at the start of the run, now you know why. We get the Headbutt TM here as well, but we can't learn it anyway, so let's move on. So now that we've beaten Koga, we basically have access to the rest of the map and every extra trainer we have yet to fight. This means that we're free to surf south of here and south of Pallet Town to clear out all the trainers on our way to Cinnabar Island. We also can take a quick detour to the power plant to pick up a couple of items, but unfortunately this just nets us a single energy powder. After making our way to Cinnabar and getting through the Seafoam Islands, which never have any good items, and this was no exception, I also make one very important distinction as well. At this point, to be honest, I might just keep Bone Meringue, unless I get, like, Earthquake. I kind of like the one physical move to deal with some of the thicker Spadef mons that we run into. And at this point, as well, we don't really... I mean, the Lotties were the thing that we were the most worried about. But Latios has awful defense, so we just Bone Meringue it. And Latios has awful Spadef, so we just Thunderbolt it, and it's fine. So... Bone Meringue is needed. I kind of agree. That Bone Meringue is kind of a necessity. So I think like Earthquake would be great. Or like Mud Shot. But I like having the ground coverage physical move. I think it's really strong. That's right. Even though I only have a handful of gyms left to give me TMs, I'm actually pretty dead set on keeping Bone Meringue with my lowered attack stat. This is because there's just a few mons on this seed that are hard walling me on the special side. So having a decent physical option could probably get me out of a tough spot if I needed to. But with that, we're well on our way to the end game. Arriving on Cinnabar Island, you're probably asking, Ark, why would you go to the 7th gym before doing the 6th? Won't you be a lower level and won't it be more difficult? The answer to these questions is... yes. However, beating Blaine nets me that special badge boost we talked about earlier, which can boost my special attack and defense for the remainder of the run. We need to enter the Pokemon Mansion first, though, to pick up the key to the gym, and we get through the dungeon with no difficulty at all. After entering Blaine's gym and taking out some really hard trainers along the way, we are once again at the hardest part of the game so far. Thankfully, he starts off the fight by feeding me 2 Pokemon extremely weak to Flamethrower and then a Blastoise. We then take out a surprisingly fitting Arcanine before needle arming Sandslash a few times, and then take out a crazy wall in Altaria. Altaria, though not shown in a lot of my footage here, popped up so many times in this game, and it was really hard to take down. Thankfully, it didn't do a whole lot of damage back in return. We pick up the Magical Leaf TM, but I decide to keep Needle Arm as it works better with Serene Grace, and now it's time for Silphco. Silphco, as previously mentioned, is one of the toughest dungeons in the game to get through. This is because you need to take out as many trainers as you can to get experience without sabotaging yourself too much on your heals and items. I ultimately decide that it's going to be worth it to beat as many trainers as I can, even if I have to use a couple really strong items. We make our way to a rival fight, which we cut through with precision, and pick up a card key which gives us access to the entire building, which includes a multitude of items as well. I'm going to play a sped up part of the video here now, showing a lot of my time here, so you can see just how meticulous it can be. So we've made it to the end and basically have cleaned out the entirety of the building, which is an incredibly rare thing to do, and only my second attempt to ever do it. We ended up burning a couple of ethers I found earlier in the run to deal with PP consumption, as well as a few mid-tier heals too, but all things considered, it was definitely worth the investment. After taking out Giovanni, we're left with just a few more checks before we head to the Elite Four, and those challenges are going to be more difficult than ever for us to deal with. Now it's time for the end game, everyone, and that starts with Sabrina's gym. Sabrina has an extra 7 trainers which we managed to get through pretty easily, while also finding out that Flame Body Dugtrio is a thing along the way. Our fight with Sabrina goes pretty well as well. It's actually starting to make me nervous how comfortable we've been in these big fights with so little of the game left. But after beating the gym, we received the Fire Punch TM, which isn't useful to us right now since we already have Flamethrower. And now it's time for the hardest gym in the game, and that is Viridian City. Giovanni's gym is comprised of ace trainers that have a ton of mons and also use healing items in their fights. I've had more than a few runs die in this building, so let's see how we can do. I skipped that first guy, I need to go back to him. Shiftry. Okay, that's a good start. Solrock doesn't have anything. Flinch, massive. No stopping, only Faulkner. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Armaldo, you are Bug Rock. What are you weak to then? I suppose I just Flamethrower you. Huge. Regice, huge. Blastoise, I know you die. Kingler, I know you die. Electrode. We have not seen Electrode, but he just set up the sun for me, so. Okay. I told everyone normally, like, there's no reason to run him on like that. But the fact that it was Volt Absorb Gyarados, I made the exception. Okay. Remarkably untouched through the 8th gym. Was Lunatone anything? I don't think so. I think I can just Needle Arm it. Huge. So there are 3 trainers left. Goodbye, Relly. Okay. 2 Mons here. Huntail is fine. We just go for Thunderbolt. Oh, you have good Spadef. How's your defense look? Defense looks pretty dang good, huh? Okay, big crit. Is proven to be fine now because its defense is like absolute garbage. Wow, we are basically untouched to Giovanni. Good start. That's a very good start. Such good coverage. You're a little scary, but I think you die. Nice. Oh, God bless. Okay. Mawile is the ace. All right. And that is the 8th gym taken down. I also used my rare candy during this gym, which gave me an extra level. We waited until now to use the rare candy just due to how much experience is needed to level up. Sure, we could have used it back at level 40 when we only needed a few thousand experience points to level up, but we waited until now as the rare candy netted us over 40,000 experience points. Seems pretty efficient, huh? We now arrive at the last obstacle standing in our way before the Elite Four, and that is our rival. I'll play the fight now so you can watch it. Dice. Volt Absorb Ludicolo. Ludicolo. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. P2 has proven to have a lot of HP. Grudge died to his burn, so that's clutch. Dude, show me Golem every day of the week, please. Doomer again. All right, guys. We're going to the Elite Four. Wow. Talk about good luck. After 2,500 attempts, though, I feel like I was due for a little bit of a break. You'd also think that Victory Road would be really scary now that we have to walk through it. However, there's actually no required fights in here, and doing any of them grants almost no benefit since we're at such a high level already. However, I decided to roll the dice on one fight in here just because I want an item. And I fortunately win the fight, and I'm rewarded with a Lumberry for my efforts, which is not totally insignificant. I get through the end of the cave, pick out my last few items, and now it's time for an epic finale. We have now arrived at the pinnacle of the run, the Elite Four. 5 trainers, 30 Pokemon is all that separates me from victory, and at this point, I'm really starting to feel the pressure. This is obviously the most impossible part of the run to beat, which I've lost runs to on 6 other occasions. I'll play a clip of my most recent run through here so you can see what I'm talking about. Oh God, yes. That's so much HP. Why does this always happen? Why? Why does this always happen to me? This is so shit. Oh my God. I just got here. Why? So yeah, hopefully our luck is better than this. The important thing to note here about the Elite Four is that in IronMon, it really just comes down to luck and having plenty of healing items. Thankfully, this was one of my better attempts with items, and I managed to stock up 1 full restore, 1 max potion, 2 hyper potions, and a couple of Moo Moo Milks and lemonades to help me out. I really pray that it's enough, and we walk in. No turning back now. Up first is Laurelie. As we start our fight with Laurelie, I'm met with Shuckle, who doesn't present a ton of threat at first glance. I decided to use my first turn to use an X special to boost my stats, and I nearly take out Shuckle with 2 flamethrowers. I decide to heal on her heal turn and manage to get a lucky flinch with Needle Arm. I use Needle Arm one more time and take out the first Mon with Thunderbolt. Cloyster comes in and then dies immediately to Thunderbolt, and I manage to take out Needle Queen with a couple of Bone Meringues, but not before taking a little bit of damage myself. Mining comes in and surprisingly eats a hit from me, but dies to Needle Arm immediately after, followed by Machamp getting 2-shot by Flamethrower and Thunderbolt respectively. Lorelie then sends out her ace, Scizor, which as you can imagine, super dies to Flamethrower, and we progress into fight number 2 without too much trouble. Next up is Bruno, and he starts out with our arch nemesis, the Hitmonlee. We decide to take the first turn to heal, and he yawns me, but it's honestly okay because we still have our Lumberry intact. We then stack up a Dire Hit to boost our critical hit ratio, and then I decide to use Boomerang first just in case he still knows Mirror Coat. After chipping him down, I can fire off a Thunderbolt, and Hitmonlee bites the dust. Dumbsparce comes in next, and eats a hit from us while dealing a powerful Nightshade back in retaliation. We then use another heal in front of a non-threatening Beedrill, and KO it with Flamethrower, which is absolutely awesome. Now that we're at full health, we tank a hit and kill Lapras straight up with Thunderbolt, and at this point I am feeling fantastic. Bruno follows up with a Beautifly that stands no chance against Flamethrower, but then we are faced with Arbok, who as you can see is pretty tanky on the special side. Turns out though that keeping our lowly little Boomerang was the right call, and we knock it out on the following turn, winning us the fight. With 2 Elite Four down and 2 to go, we now face off against Agatha, who unfortunately sets the rain on the very first turn, which nerfs our Flamethrower damage and manages to paralyze us with a Tri-Attack. I immediately decide to heal the status off and decide to add a Dire Hit once again as we tank frustrations. Boomerang then comes out and makes quick work of Raichu. Or does it? And it manages to live on 1 HP. However, this does give us the opportunity to heal ourselves. After burning with the following Flamethrower though, I realize that Raichu's damage is going to be in the gutter now, so I decide to use a Lemonade to take advantage of it, and I kill it with Needle Arm on the following turn, setting us up for the rest of the fight. Thankfully, we absolutely annihilate the incoming Golem with Needle Arm, take out Unknown with a Thunderbolt and a Needle Arm, and KO Dodrio after a few moves as well. With just 2 mons to go, Agatha sends out Arbok, which as we know now has 0 physical defense, so we just one-hit KO it with Boomerang. And then she sends out a second Golem, which is amazing for us. There's just one thing gnawing at my brain here though. It's obvious that we can kill it with Needle Arm, but I really want to go into the next fight at full HP. However, my chat throws out the possibility of Explosion on Golem, and against my better judgment, I decide that it's probably best to take the safe route, and we win the fight with just half of our HP left. The final member of the Elite Four is Lance. I would have loved to heal at the end of the previous fight, but it is what it is. I immediately go for a heal on the Swampert that comes in right away and use a couple of low tier heals as well as an X special to boost up. And now, it's time to go in. Swampert absolutely eats a Needle Arm, but I have the serene grace flinch before getting poisoned by Poison Point. I've saved my full restore up until now though, and I feel like we're going to be okay. I then KO Magneton with Flamethrower and do the same to Delibird on the following turn. That's when Lance does the absolute unthinkable and sends out another Delibird, which I promptly nuke with Flamethrower as well. As he sends out Altaria, it's finally time to full restore as it's never been able to do a ton of damage to us in the past. However, Altaria is mad tanky, and it takes us 2 Thunderbolts and a Flamethrower to knock it out. With just 1 Pokemon left, Lance sends out, you guessed it, Arbok, and we take it out with a couple of Boomerangs to end the fight and secure my personal best run so far. The only downside to this is that my PP is getting pretty low, and I now have 0 Boomerangs left. I do have a Lepa Berry though that I ultimately decide to attach at the beginning of the next fight to restore 10 PP to the move. Yep, that's right, 10 PP to our only measly physical move. But if I've learned anything on this run so far, it's that we'll need every resource possible to win. I'm going to play the final fight with no commentary, so please enjoy the thrilling ending to our challenge. I'll see you on the other side. I'm so scared. Moltres. I have never seen Moltres. I would love to X item here, but I feel like I should just attack. Para? Safeguard is fine. I'm gonna run out of Thunderbolts though. That doesn't look like it's in range to kill. I think I need a Flamethrower here. And then I Thunderbolt afterwards for a guaranteed kill. That's gonna hurt. Okay. I have 2 Thunderbolts, bro. I have 2 Thunderbolts. Zangoose. Low defense. Brick Break. I'm gonna Hyper Potion. Solar Beam? X Special for sure. Please don't do that much damage. Don't you dare do it. I don't know if I'm faster. How much did that do? 89 damage. I'm gonna have to max potion here. Okay. God, all of these mons... I should have guard spec'd. All of these mons are ones that I don't know any movesets on. That's so unfortunate. Slow bro, please. Just be a bro. Be an absolute slow bro. Okay. I'm gonna Needle Arm. Okay, that's fine. Transform! Oh my god. Guys, he's gonna be speed tied with me. Oh, why did I Needle Arm? Oh my god, I should have just gone for... Oh, wait, he'll burn another heal, won't he? Now we Flamethrower. Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. Just die, please. Actually, the best case scenario, I know. We burn both of his heals. Alright. We resist. That was a crit. -1 speed. I really wish I wasn't -1 speed, dude. Please, just give me a Golem. Just give me a Golem and a Feretris and I would love you forever. Imprison. Please. Stop. Please. Stop, DJ. That's so rude. Please. Oh my god. We're done. We're done. Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh no way. Oh my god. I'm shaking, dude. Oh, I want to cry. I'm so happy, dude. Oh my god. That is FireRed Kaizo IronMon in I don't know how many attempts. It's like 2,500 and some. Oh my god. Finally. Hi guys, it is Ark. This is a very different video than I have done in the past, and I just wanted to pop in and say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel lately. I've been working on this video for a while, aka procrastinating on it for a while, but I'm really proud of this challenge and really proud of the effort that I put into making it. So if you guys could toss me a like, maybe think about subbing, it would mean the absolute world to me. So I really have nothing else to say to you guys apart from, you know, maybe we'll start doing more of these challenge runs in the future. They make for some pretty fun videos, and they're a nice little break from the monotony of competitive battling. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want me to do another challenge run. Kaizo Emerald seems like a likely contender, but we'll probably think about that for a little while. IronMon's really tough on the brain, so yeah, I'm blabbering at this point. So yeah, like, subscribe, do all of the YouTube stuff, and again, thank you guys so much. Peace.